What's up, Internet? You're tuning in episode 34 of the Steam Deck podcast, Flip Screen Games weekly podcast, all about Valve's hot new handheld, the Steam Deck. You know, Steve, well, first of all, I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined as always by my partner in Steam Deck related crimes, Mr. Steven Radford.
Hello.
So, I think it's time. I think we got to decide on the new intro. We're past the first birthday. It's not, I don't know that it's the hot new handheld.
I think we need to put it to the listeners. Maybe
All
we
right, I
come
want
up with
to
some
bring right in.
options. Like, I want something really difficult for Pete to say, like portable PC powerhouse or something, and he's got to say it every single
I already
week.
love that. Put that
You
in the
know?
running. That's great. I'll
So
get it now,
that's
buddy.
one of them. And then
Valve's portable
we
PC
need
powerhouse.
we
the
need
Steam
other
Deck.
ideas down in the
Come on.
comments on the Discord, right into questions at flipscreen.games.
That's the backup. I'll tell you what, because I can say it. I'm a staunch professional. You know, I got that down. The diction is right on there. Powerful PC powerhouse. Come on. Oh, portable PC powerhouse. I got to
Yes.
memorize it. But anyway, we're back. The show's here. We're doing it. We're talking about Steam Deck again. What's up, everybody?
Yeah, it's good to be back.
Here's the thing, though, Steve. Are we talking about Steam Deck? Because our first story is about how ASUS is out here entering the ring with their own Steam Deck competitors. A Steam Deck killer, some have said.
I don't know about that, but
I don't think
it's
so either.
interesting. I do think it's nice to see more of these like handheld PCs coming into the market, supposedly. I mean, this was initially an April Fool's. The ROG Ally was announced on April 1st. And it was like everyone thought it was like an April Fool's joke, and then it wasn't. And it was sort of like, oh, did they announce this is on April 2nd in China? Like, we're really not sure.
Oh, yeah, you think that's what happened?
Yeah, and so then it showed up on the Linus Tech Tips YouTube channel and Dave2D's YouTube channel with some hands-on impressions, and it looks to be like a pretty comprehensive device. They claim double the speed of the Steam Deck, which I just do not buy at all, for the power that they're claiming it outputs. No idea on pricing yet, but Insider Gaming's reporting between $649 and $900.
For
The
two different
biggest,
versions, right? The idea is that there would be a 512 gigabyte version, and that's the 651, and then there's a 1 terabyte that's $899.
yeah.
Running
So
Windows.
I think that's pretty comparable pricing to the Steam Deck, considering
650
the
isn't too
power.
bad. Yeah.
Yeah, 650 is a decent price, but yeah, running Windows, 120 hertz OLED panel. I don't understand why 120 hertz. It's a 16:9 aspect ratio, which might cause some issues in Windows. There's a great breakdown video by the Forks, and I'll put his YouTube video in the description. I did not realize that Windows doesn't work on displays with like a lower height than 720.
Oh, really?
Because the problem is apparently when you get one of those alert dialogues, if the screen height is too short, you can't click OK or cancel. So it doesn't really function, which is apparently one of the reasons that Valve went with the 16:10 aspect ratio, the 800p display,
Well, so
rather
you
than
could
the
use it.
720p, so you could use it and you
That's
could
funny.
access those buttons correctly. I think the biggest thing from this, though, because we don't know price, for me, the biggest takeaway is the fact that it's going to be sold in Best Buy, and they've partnered with Best Buy in the United States, and they're seemingly going to sell these en masse to the general public. So I think Valve has kind of proven now that there is a market for these. I'm surprised that Valve is not the one getting in stores in the US first, because they're in stores in other countries now. We've seen, I think it was in Hong Kong.
Yeah, it was in I think it was in Hong Kong and South Korea.
Yeah, in the ASUS
And I think
stores there,
I think one other country in that, it might have even been just Japan, or maybe the three that I'm thinking of, but it was a chain that ran in multiple countries that was going to be doing that, and then there was another local one, I think, in Japan. We did a whole episode about it. You can go listen to that whole report. But I think when we talked about it then, I remember name dropping Best Buy as being like, this is the type of place I could see them selling the Steam Deck. Right?
It makes sense because they sell PCs anyway. You pop it next to it. You have like a little pop-up stand talking about what it is. And I still think though that I think the price point I'm dubious by. Like I believe inside
Like,
the game.
you
The
don't think that's
reporting's top notch. I don't think that they can hit that unless they sell these at like a lot of them. Because the problem is, Valve can sell a lot less devices and they can sell devices at a loss because they know they're making 30% on every game
Right.
sale that they're making. ASUS doesn't have that luxury. They don't operate a market. So when the ROG Ally comes out, the only money they make from it is when they sell you the ROG Ally and maybe some accessories to go with it. They don't make any money from game sales. And they're going to have to pay Windows some cash as well for an OEM license. They're going to have to put a lot of time and effort into this device, and it seems to be pretty well specced. I'm dubious about that 649 price point.
So you think it's gonna be more than that? If you had to guess,
I could
what are
see
you
the
thinking?
899 being the right price point. I would say around 750, 800 would be where I would see the starting price point for it.
And
Um,
then you think a terabyte model would be even more expensive.
yeah, I think a terabyte model would be even more. That's if they do the 2 SKUs. They might just choose to go with the 1 in the
That
end. We don't
feels like
know.
it makes more sense to me when I think about it, just because that feels more comparable to the price of a PC, right? If you were gonna build a gaming rig, it would be somewhere in that price range, and
Yeah, and you've got the 120 hertz OLED panel on
yeah,
there, which
that's not
isn't gonna be
cheap,
cheap.
right? OLED screens are,
Yeah.
it's an investment, and it's a good one. It's worthwhile. I'm sure that that's gonna make it a really nice device to play on, but
Yes, but we don't know if it comes at the cost of being able to change the refresh rate on the screen in the same way that we can do that on the Steam Deck, right? Where we can set it down to 40 hertz and we can lock it and we can cap it at that. That
are
might
you
not
imagining this is
matter.
a more closed device, or do you think it just runs like a PC?
I think it just runs like a PC. It looks like it runs like a PC, and they've got their own little skin on top of it with like access to game library, and they've got their own little slide out panel that you can do. Linus Tech Tips has like a bit of a breakdown on the actual interface, but they can't show a lot of it. They were kind of not allowed to show too much. Definitely weren't allowed to talk about how games were running. But I could see it being a pretty open device. I think it's just gonna run Windows, and it's interesting to me that they've opted to go with like a very different controller configuration to the Steam Decks. Obviously, the Steam Decks when we looked at it, right, was um was pretty controversial, I think, when people first saw it, with the buttons and the D-pad all the way pushed out to the edges.
Yeah.
It looks like, Asus has gone with a little bit more of a traditional style, but we've
Yeah, the
lost
offset sticks instead.
the offset sticks. We've lost the touchpads though, and I don't know about you, but I use those touchpads way more than I ever thought I would on the Steam Deck.
It depends on the game, but I use them a decent amount, especially when navigating in desktop mode.
Mm.
I think that would be like a nightmare to do without those things. So,
And
it's something
you're gonna have
where,
to use the stick as a mouse, which is gonna be absolutely bizarre.
yeah, and I mean, it's like it's not unheard of. Like, I mean, there's console games I can think of where that's
Yeah,
like
but
what
they're
you're
usually like
doing,
a
but
big circle that's, like, moving around, like Destiny,
yeah, like
right?
fine, like
So I've
I
got
guess
to
if it's
touch a
got a
tiny
touch
little
screen, you could
icon on a
click
start
that
menu.
way, but yeah, I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I think you're right. Where at the time, I remember being like, "Do we need these?" Like, whatever, but now it's hard to imagine the device without them. They feel like a defining feature.
Yeah, I really like them. Um,
I feel like it
I
limits what kind of games you can play on this thing to some degree too, right? Because, like,
It does,
you
but,
can't really play, like, a mouse and keyboard game on this device.
no, you can, but and obviously you will have access to Steam input if you access it through if you play through Steam, and you can just boot into Steam Big Picture mode in the same way that you can on any PC. So you could have the basically the Steam Deck interface on this thing if you wanted to. I think one thing that this has going for it is Windows. And obviously, you can install Windows on a Steam Deck, but it's not the premium optimal experience, and it's not what most people are going to be doing. And I think that gives you access to a lot of games that don't currently work on the Steam Deck, including, but not limited to, all of Game Pass. And I think that's going to be a big sell for a lot of people.
Yeah, I was talking to a friend of mine who is a recent Steam Deck owner, and he was interested in it for that reason. The idea of like, oh, huh, like it would be cool to make this like a Game Pass machine. Like, could this be a legit competitor to the Steam Deck because it fills a niche that the Steam Deck doesn't, right? Like, sure, you can play, Game Pass games. If you go and check out our tutorial over on our YouTube channel, you can watch. Steve will show you how to play your Xbox games, and not just Xbox Game Pass games, but any Xbox game streamed to your Steam Deck, which is great. But obviously, that's different than the native experience of being able to download those games on a
You
machine
can't
that
take it
runs
on the
Windows.
go with you, you've got to always be connected to the internet in that case, and, it's great, it works phenomenally, but sometimes you do wanna take it on the go if you're commuting or something, you wanna play those
Or if you're going on
games
vacation and you're
while
going
you're
to be
away,
somewhere where
yeah.
there's no internet, or like maybe you're at a hotel with spotty Wi-Fi, or you're going to be on a plane, right? Like it's nice for when you're at home, but if you are wanting to use it as a handheld, and you're not going to be staying at a friend's house or a relative's place or whatever, where you have good stable internet that you can take advantage of, it is limiting, and it would be nice to. That's something that we've talked about a lot, right? Like in terms of our wish list for the Steam Deck would be a native Game Pass app. That would be a huge win. And obviously, it's pretty cool that for all of the, I think things that this device has that um there are, I don't want to say drawbacks necessarily, but like disadvantages that the Steam Deck doesn't have, right? Like Valve's ability to sell it at a loss and, make money on software, all that good stuff. Having Valve support, having them constantly be updating based on the community, having the ability to have like accessories like the docking station at launch, all those kinds of, not at launch, but I mean, if you were to buy in now, right, you could get one brand new.
Mhm,
I think those are all really cool things, and those are all things that are definitely the touchpads, as we said, are real advantages. But this thing also does have some interesting advantages, I think, based on what the price looks like, right? Like, obviously, you said you think the double the speed is a bit of a dubious claim, but even if it's a jump in power, that's an advantage, right? Having a OLED screen is really awesome. Being able to play Game Pass natively, very cool. But I don't know, like looking at the overall package, um, it's hard for me to think about why you would want to invest the huge additional, not huge, I guess, but
I think
say,
it's the power output, right? If what they're saying is true and you can play games that are more intense that the Steam Deck is struggling to play, right? And it can just power through and play them with higher frame rates, with higher textures, higher graphical fidelity. I think that's the reason you go for this over the Steam Deck. And I don't think Valve is really going to care because they're still going to hook you into their ecosystem anyway because everyone uses Steam. There
yeah,
are a
they make
few other
money either
things
way.
that I mean, there was a leaker over on Reddit, which is what Insider Gaming was reporting from. Whether you believe the pricing or not, whether you believe the leaker at all, because it's just someone on Reddit. Apparently, it's also going to support eGPUs out of the box, external GPUs, so you can just plug this into
Right.
say like a 4090 or something and have like an absolute beast machine. And VR, which fair enough. I think even the Steam Deck can play VR. I'm sure it was Plagman or Lawrence Yang over on Twitter that retweeted someone playing Beat Saber off of the Steam Deck.
Yeah, I don't know. I'm interested to learn more about this thing. I think if this 649 like 512 model is real,
That's the
um,
same price point as the Steam Deck's 512 model, by the way, which
yeah,
is
and
what
that
makes me
that I
really
think is
dubious.
very attractive then. That becomes a way more interesting prospect, and I don't know if people rush to it in mass, I don't know if it really is
I'm
able
not itching
to.
to upgrade mine at the moment, but if something comes along and it kind of catches your eye, it makes you go, "Well, maybe." Especially when SteamOS 3.5 comes out and,
Yeah.
I think that's the one that's gonna have the installer. Maybe you can just install SteamOS on this thing, and you can make your own Steam Deck Pro.
Here's what I think we gotta do, Steve. We gotta reach out to the folks at ASUS, and we gotta get them to send us one so we can really break it down and let the folks know.
Yeah, I'd love to. I'm looking forward to seeing the comparisons to the Steam Deck, to the GPD Win Max, to the Iron Neo machines. There's a lot of these handheld gaming devices out there now. These handheld PCs, and it's nice. It's exciting. I love the form factor. I think for me, I'm completely sold on this working as a device. You know, we've
It's
had the Steam Deck for a year now, and I still use it almost every day. I still love my Steam Deck.
I think the thing that's gonna be very interesting to me is because I agree with you that it's cool and it's interesting and it's been an exciting trend to see other people, I guess, have that interest sparked by the success of the Steam Deck.
Well,
I'm
seemingly PlayStation was one of them as well, right? There was the rumor
sure.
also this week that we're potentially getting a streaming handheld from them, and I can only imagine that part of that it comes from seeing the Steam Deck's announcement in 2021 and then its success throughout
Yeah, I mean,
2022.
maybe I definitely think that it feels like the tides are turning in terms of how we feel about handheld gaming again. I think like there was that period where it kind of had a lull when mobile gaming blew up, and there was this attitude of like, well, if you have a phone in your pocket, why do you need a dedicated handheld device? And I think obviously for a lot of core gamers that didn't hold true, but um, you see a renewed interest in handhelds right now. I think between the Steam Deck and the Nintendo Switch, obviously, but and then all these competitors that want to come and take a shot and see if one of them will stick. But I think that's such an interesting question. Is like can any of these really, really, really come out and stick around? Or are they going to be kind of like one time, two time things where they make a
I
play?
don't
Because
think any but the thing is, I think it's different. I think you're thinking about it differently there because it's an open ecosystem. They're all PCs, right? You're buying a PC. I could buy a Steam Deck and then I use it for a couple of years and then I go, I don't want to use a Steam Deck anymore. I'm going to go get an ROG Ally because
right.
that thing's
Yeah.
more powerful. But all my
Sure.
games come with me because they're all on Steam and I can play them and I don't have to worry about
Yeah,
sticking
no
to
doubt.
one device anymore.
What I'm thinking about is not it as in terms of like a platform like that. Like you have to stick around with Asus's machine. It's like obviously if you get in on one of these devices and then you want to jump to another one, there's no real barrier to that because like like theoretically you should be able to take your library with you because they're all PC games, right? I'm more talking about what is the incentive for a company like Asus to stay in this market if the device isn't wildly successful, like you said.
Zero, absolutely zero.
And
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 they
that's
weren't, I don't
and
think.
that's the thing is like you made the point earlier, and I think it's a salient one that with Valve, they have a reason to stay invested in the Steam Deck because it grows their ecosystem. It grows the number of devices that are connected to buying specifically from their store, right? Which is only a boon for them. And they already have a thriving business. This is an add-on to that. Whereas, like, not to say that Asus doesn't, but it's like, does if they sell only a couple thousand of these, right? Say even a couple 100,000 of these, does Asus look at that as a
I think honestly,
success?
I think they see that as a success. And I think they just need I think they've got a number in their mind where they need to hit, and I think they probably can hit it. Because this is the kind of device that you make 1 or 2 SKUs and it lasts 2, 3 years, right? It's not like a
Right.
PC where we're constantly swapping the chips out on the motherboards and, all of that stuff. They don't have to worry about that. But these guys are making the world's most hideous phones, and people buy those. I don't know why, but people do buy them. So if they can get away with selling you an ugly Diablo Immortal Edition ROG phone, I'm sure they'll be able to sell some of these handheld ROG allies that
Yeah, maybe.
seemingly
I
are
don't
a
know.
much
You're
better
probably right.
product.
You're probably right because I mean they're obviously dialed in. I'm using two Asus monitors right now, so it's not like gamers are unaware of Asus. But I just feel like
Yeah, and like this is their sub brand. This is the Republic of Gamers sub brand
sure,
that people are buying. They're an Nvidia and I think an AMD card manufacturer as well. So if you're buying a if you're buying a RTX 4090, you might be buying it from Asus. You might be buying the ROG Strix or whatever it is. So people know them, and I think I don't know that the brand cachet is there. Do people really care? Like, oh, I'm buying an ROG versus oh, I'm buying a Steam Deck, and this is like a hot new thing, and it feels fresh.
right.
I
That's
feel like
kind of
there's
my
probably
thing. Is I
something
don't know
different
that there's
there.
going to be the same culture around it, and if there isn't, is that like is it being a more powerful version of an already niche product enough? And I don't know that it is. I'm certainly interested. I think it does potentially have some interesting advantages and promise that, you know, um, could make it a viable alternative, or at least, for like the really crazy people, maybe you get two, right? And you're like, I got three now. Who gives a shit? Like, this is what I used to play Game Pass games, like I don't know, but it's it's very interesting and it's cool. I'm glad to see more people entering the fray, and
Me
that this
too.
seems to
And
be a
and
thriving market.
and the idea that this is potentially going more mainstream, coming to big box PC stores in
Yeah,
the West, like, that's exciting, and I hope that gives inroads for Valve to have those conversations with Best Buy and with Currys in the UK
I
and
hope
with,
so.
all of those big chains throughout,
I feel like it would
throughout
do
Europe.
better. Like I do. Like I think a display where you have the Steam logo and you're like, oh, it's Steam Deck, and like people know that, like they that has way more cachet, I think,
Plus, I
among
think
PC
people are
folks.
curious about it anyway, and they wanna go see it, and they wanna feel it, and they wanna play with it, and they wanna know what games they can play on it, right? If you had, like, a demo of a bunch of games that you can only really play on the Steam Deck or one of these handheld PCs, because they'll never run on a Switch, for example, I think people would be like, "Oh, shit, no? Yeah.
Yeah.
I wanna play Horizon Zero Dawn on the go. I wanna pick up, God of War.
I
I
think it
wanna
would
play
help
those."
evangelize it for sure.
Mhm.
Well, speaking of the success of the handheld PC market, as it were, it looks like the Steam Deck is about to cross 3.5 million sold by the end of this year.
Yeah,
Heck
pretty
yeah, man. That's
crazy.
pretty good, right? I mean, 1
Yeah.
million was roughly,
Well,
what? It
we
wasn't even
don't
a
know
full year
when
in,
it
right? And
was. Yeah, it wasn't a full year. I think it was probably, like, August,
I
September.
yeah, I feel like it was the like Q4 of last year ish.
Yeah.
Which is, I mean, that means that they've sold, more than twice that amount in a smaller amount, or
Yeah.
looking to sell that amount, I guess I should say, in a smaller amount of time, which is pretty cool.
Yeah, well, this was from an analyst over at tech research firm, Omdia, called, James McWhirter. He said that, 1.6 million was sold in 2022 based on his analysis,
Okay.
and, 3.5 million by the end of this year would be a 14% increase year on year, which to me, I'm kind of surprised it's only 14% considering they're moving into other markets, so they've moved into the Asian markets. I thought maybe it would have been a little bit higher.
I think the thing is, though, I think that's actually really good for what is a niche product. We've talked a lot about how Valve has not invested a lot of money in marketing, right? Like, aside from
All
things
the all
like,
the Steam Decks that Christopher Judge sold at,
right.
Game
There's
Awards,
that
yeah.
one for sure, and then they gave away a bunch more. But right, aside from their interaction with the Game Awards and their presence at TGS, which I'm sure cost money. I'm not trying to minimize those efforts, but it's not the same as, like, you know
They
you see
haven't needed
commercials.
to though, have they? Like, they really
Exactly.
haven't.
It's a word of
Because
mouth
you
product.
well, it's a word of mouth product, and you also open up Steam on the daily to play your PC games, and they're shoving it down your throat.
Wouldn't you like a Steam Deck?
Yeah.
Yeah, right. So I think they've been able to kind of uniquely take advantage of their dominance in the PC games market and like the visibility of their storefront, right? As well as a few key interactions with big, big spaces where they would be able to break out beyond that, right? Because console gamers that don't play on PC watch the Game Awards, and we talked about obviously how PC gaming over the last several years has been having a growing relevance in Japan, um, due to the pandemic, right? And that is like a market that's kind of emerging for them. And I would imagine that what happened here will probably happen in those new markets where, like, right now it's like, oh, what's the Steam Deck? Who's heard of the Steam Deck? Whatever. And then couple enthusiasts get it, and then their friends get it, and then their friends get it. And I think you'll probably see a
I really
similar
hope
snowball
we
in
I
other
re
regions
yeah.
over time.
I really hope we get figures specifically from Komodo, which is their distributor over in, Asia, and so we can know how many they're selling over there. Because I have a feeling that, Japan has always been very handheld centric. We know that. That's where the Nintendo consoles have always sold the best. I think the Vita, it sold there. It didn't sell anywhere else, but it sold there. And,
It had a market.
And so I could easily see the Steam Deck doing the same thing,
Yeah,
and
I
people
agree.
wanting to play this handheld.
Yeah, yeah, I definitely think you're right. So the idea that like we had a nearly 15% increase in our first year, right? Like that feels good. And I wouldn't be surprised if it's a lot bigger next year as it expands into more markets, as it gets more attention, as more folks pick it up and then evangelize it to,
I think
their
so.
their
I also
buddies.
think we're probably due a price drop or, a
But
revision. I think
yeah,
the 65 gigabyte model goes away, maybe replaced with a 128, or we get rid of it altogether and we kind of reduce the price of the 256. And I think the 512 probably could do with a revision if the rumors are true and the ROG Ally comes out at the same price point. I really think the screen is not that big of a seller. I mean, I might be wrong. I don't have one, but I feel like a lot of people just put screen protectors on their devices anyway, and you can get these matte screen protectors, which
yeah, I just don't think
offers a
it's
very
worth it.
similar thing. It's
Like
just
an OLED screen is something I'd pay extra for.
yeah.
D-gloss, what it's like, okay, whatever. Like, it's like, I remember having to read about it to be like, what does this do? And it's like, I don't care about this. This is such a like specific use case that it's like, I'm not going to spend extra money on a
Mhm.
nicer case and a slightly better screen. That's not going to really improve the look, right? Whereas like I did buy an OLED Switch because I was like, well, I do want those deeper blacks, right? Like we want those true blacks in Metroid Dread. So
Yeah.
that would definitely be something I would consider upgrading for if I could get a more premium screen.
See, I've never been ruined by the Switch OLED. I'm still rocking my launch edition, Switch at the
And there's
moment.
nothing wrong with that. It's
And it
just
and it works fine.
it does.
I've had I have had this practically since day 1.
But man,
Um,
Metroid Dread on that
Still
thing was
works.
beautiful.
See, I played that
So
entirely
good.
on my OLED TV. I didn't play any of it handheld.
So there you go. You had it.
Yeah.
You had the OLED experience.
It looked really good. Did look really good.
We do love an OLED screen. We do love an OLED screen.
Yeah.
But speaking of things we love our Patreon producers for the month of April. And they are, of course, Arnold J. Rimmer, Christopher Valens, Earth Visitor, Gabriel Hasselmeyer, aka Sobe, Snackago, Ty the Dude, and Waka Hula. Thank you all for your support over on patreon.com/flipscreengames. You're all the realest of the real, and we greatly appreciate your support of this and all of our sister shows. If you want to be an absolute rock star like they did and support the show, you can head over to flipscreen.games. That's our website where you will find links to our Patreon, our Discord, all the places that you can get involved in the community, right into the show, or show your support. However you choose to get involved, we greatly appreciate you and your support of the Steam Deck podcast. Speaking of support of the Steam Deck podcast, we've got a lot more show ahead of us. But before that, let me give you a word from our sponsors over at Manscaped. Support for the Steam Deck podcast is brought to you by Manscaped, the best in men's below-the-waist grooming. Manscaped offers precision-engineered tools for your family jewels. Manscaped recently launched the Ultimate Men's Hygiene Bundle, the Performance Package. Inside, you'll find the Lawnmower 4.0 trimmer, Weed Whacker ear and nose hair trimmer, Crop Preserver ball deodorant, Crop Reviver toner, Performance boxer briefs, and a travel bag to hold all your brand new goodies. Join the over 7 million men and roughly 14 million balls worldwide who trust Manscaped with this exclusive offer for our listeners. 20% off and free worldwide shipping with the code STEAMDECK at manscaped.com. We've all been there. You've got a big date coming up and you want your balls feeling as fresh and aerodynamic as possible. With my old buzzer, I was only one slip of the hand away from disaster. Now, thanks to Manscaped's Lawnmower 4.0, I can keep my downstairs hairs neat and tidy without fear. Their 4th generation trimmer features a cutting-edge ceramic blade to reduce grooming accidents thanks to their advanced skin-safe technology. The Lawnmower 4.0 is waterproof and even has a 4000K LED spotlight for when you need a more precise shave. Trust me when I say this, fellas. Your balls will thank you. Get 20% off and free shipping today with the code STEAMDECK when you check out at manscaped.com. That's 20% off with free shipping at manscaped.com when you use the code STEAMDECK. Unlock your confidence and always use the right tools for the job with Manscaped. Let's talk about The Last of Us
Oh
on,
god.
on PC because I missed the episode where you guys got to talk about the whole mess. We recapped it a little bit on the Flip Screen Games podcast. I got to get my 2 cents in there for a second, but I I'm very disappointed in this development because it feels pretty clear that this was rushed a bit so that they
Oh,
could
yeah.
coincide with the HBO show, which we were both big fans of, right? If you guys want to hear our thoughts about that, we actually reviewed the whole show. We did an episode over on the Flip Screen Games podcast feed if you're interested. Um, but it had both of us thinking, I really want to play Last of Us again. It's coming to PC. You know, I was thinking about maybe picking it up on Steam Deck. My wife wanted to get it on Steam Deck and play it for the first time. And yeah, I gotta say, I'm bummed. I'm bummed that it is has had such a mixed bag, and that the update we have today is that, of course, we're hard at work on a fix. We're gonna, we're sorry, blah blah. But Steam Deck not a priority, and very disappointing because that's where I want to play it now, right? And like,
Especially when you consider, I think it was a week before launch that Neil Druckmann, the creator, co-president at Naughty Dog, was tweeting that, yeah, of course you'll be able to play it on Steam Deck. And I've been playing it there, and it sucks. And it's still, and this is also on you, Valve, if you're listening, which you're probably not, but if you are, it's still being advertised on SteamDeck.com. It's still in the sizzle reel at the top. You can still see that giraffe and Joel and Ellie there. And it's like, what? Why? Why? How did this I genuinely don't understand how this happened because it's come out as such a mess. We've had hotfix after hotfix, and none of them have really fixed much. So much so that I had got to a point I've just given up with it now because I downloaded a hotfix and then I couldn't open the game anymore. It just continues on the throbber animation. I just to get the Steam logo just constantly pulsing in front of me as I try to open up The Last of Us, and
that's
I can't.
really
Never
frustrating.
loads. It's very frustrating, yeah. And, like, the solution seems to be, "Oh, you're gonna have to delete it and reinstall it." And I'm like, "No, I'm probably just not gonna reinstall it at this point. I'll wait until they've seemingly fixed it." They have put out another update, patch 1.0.2. They've said a new patch for The Last of Us Part 1 on PC is now live. Patch 1.0.2 addresses some crashes, improves performance in some areas, and fixes several gameplay and UI issues, including some animation, texture, and lighting bugs. And it does have some Steam Deck specific improvements. Fix an issue where the shader caching may freeze at 50% completion. Fixed an issue where plugging in a DualSense controller while viewing cutscenes forced the player into gameplay. Very weird. Um,
That is such a weirdly specific glitch because it's like, why are you plugging it in while a cutscene is happening anyway? Like, why did enough people do this that it was like a well-known problem? That's so silly to me.
adjusted the user interface to show Steam Deck controls in the screen magnifier menu and adjusted the positioning of weapon and health HUDs elements. So I think they are working on it, but we also saw this week that Valve officially marked it as unsupported on the store while still keeping it up on the website as advertising for the Steam Deck of what games can be played. And I just don't think that's a
Yeah.
good look for either of them. That it's still up there at being advertised as a game that can be played on the Steam Deck while it's marked as unsupported in the store, and it just does not run very well.
This feels like one of the first big blunders of this type. Where like there's obviously been games that came to Steam Deck and they didn't run great and then they get patched and it's better and everything, but like this felt like a hyped announcement for, people, and like again, right, that you can go to steamdeck.com and this game that only came out a few, in the grand scheme of things a few days ago, right? Um and it's been a famous blunder and they're still advertising it as one of the big titles you can play on Steam Deck. Yeah, it's just not a good look. Like I don't blame Valve for it not running, but I would have probably been like the day that Joel meme started getting shared,
Oh, you
I probably
take
would have
that
been
off,
like, why
yeah.
don't we just why don't we just cut another version of that video and just toss that up, huh?
Yeah.
Why don't we
Or
update that
or
graphic?
when or like when, it got unverified, it got marked as
Yeah.
unsupported, like, do it then.
Like if I'm them, I'm like maybe let's just recut that and we throw God of War in there for now. We just
Yeah,
we just
why not? I get that The Last of Us was the hot thing of the moment, right? We
sure,
had the
sure.
HBO show, so they
If it
probably wanted to
worked, you would
capitalize
want
on
it
that.
there, but it doesn't.
Yeah, and I think that yeah, I think I don't und I genuinely don't understand it. We spoke about it last week. I simply cannot comprehend how bad this PC port is and why it got released in the state it did.
I mean, you
Like,
know why.
Naughty Dog is seemingly a studio that cares and polishes their games to perfection, and yet they put out this mess.
So, I mean, I'm of the opinion, right? Because by and large, it seems like Naughty Dog has the ability to kind of do whatever they want, right? Like that seems to be that seems to be what Neil Druckmann says. That seems to be my understanding based on what we've read in Jason's books, and like they seem to have cachet there where they're kind of able to make those kinds of decisions. I wonder if this one didn't come on down from high, where it's like, look, like no, we got to put it out around the how busted is it really? Like and well,
It gets to a point though where you had the hype, right? They had the hype, they had
mhm.
the day one sales. Everyone realized it was a mess. People aren't going to come back. Cyberpunk had the same issue on consoles. Yes, it worked fine on PCs day one, but it didn't work on consoles. This thing was completely broken. There was a Digital Foundry video where they compared three different systems: the PS5, a low end PC, and basically the highest end PC you can get. On ultra settings, it crashed on this like machine with an RTX 4090 and some ridiculous Intel CPU in it, and the lighting was completely broken. And the textures look worse than the PS5 version in some places. It was ridiculous. I just can't understand how Sony looked at this and was just like, yeah, sure. Let's put it out anyway. Who
Yeah.
cares?
I
It'll sell.
they shouldn't have for sure, but I also don't know that I agree with you that people won't come back. I feel
I
like
don't think they come back in the same droves they would have is if they delayed this a month,
I agree with
did
that.
all these fixes,
Yeah.
and then was just like, "Okay, right, it's ready. It's polished to perfection. It comes out. Everyone raves about it." They actually give codes to creators because not one single creator or reviewer got a code for
Well,
this
that's
game.
why, right?
Yeah, and then people would have been streaming it on Twitch
You could have
early.
done a marketing push later and
Yeah,
made it work.
and
But
it would have been absolutely fine. It didn't need to tie in with the TV series. It was still on everyone's minds.
yeah. But again, I don't know. Like, I don't know that it's gonna matter that much. And maybe this is an ignorant comment, but I feel like this happens so often. And that's not to justify it, but I feel like PC players are used to this in some ways, where like there are a lot of games that come out and the PC port is totally, totally fucking busted. And everybody's like, wow, great. Another broken PC port. Love getting treated like this. Love plunking down my hard earned money for a version of a game that doesn't fucking work. And then eventually the details get hammered out and games have a longer shelf life on PC, right? Like I remember I think it was Arkham Knight, right? Was
Oh, yeah, that was a mess, but
like
it
the
eventually got
fucking
fixed,
bot, the
right?
ground wouldn't even load
Yeah.
in, and then and that was a totally busted fucking game. And guess what? I'm sure it sold well on PC in the long run. I'm sure if you go and look at its reviews on Steam now, they're probably fine. Like I imagine
Yeah,
they'll
maybe
get
you're
there.
right. I think though it could have come out and it could have been a flag it should have been their flagship.
Yeah, no, and
This
I
this
totally agree with you. It was an
this
unforced error, and it would have been a blowout win rather than egg on your face on
you look
both
at how well Spider-Man was received when that came to PC.
God of War, Horizon, Days
Yeah,
Gone.
I specifically call out Spider-Man because that was one done by Nixies, right? They've bought this PC porting studio. You couldn't take them off of whatever the fuck they're working on right now and put them on your prestigious
They were too
premium
busy getting
product that
Sackboy's
you've
Big Adventure to run
yeah,
on
it's like
Steam,
you've
Steve.
it's like, come on. You've just like had a hit HBO TV series. Just take them off of whatever they're doing and being like, come on, Neil and the team needs a little bit of help to get
I
this thing
know.
across the
Eh,
line.
it's a wild turn of events because it feels like there are so many ways you could have played this differently and had it not be a problem. But marketing beats are gonna marketing beat, right? And you're like, you got to get it out while the juice is hot, while everyone's talking about it. And like, yeah, like that would have been sick if they had it out like the last week the show was over and been like, bam, it's on PC now. Like,
Then they should have had it ready a year ago. Like, they
uh-huh.
should have been working on it. If this was the plan in mind, right, where
This
they were
show's
just
been
like,
in development for
yeah,
years. Like
why
they
have
could
they
have
not?
done that.
They should have started working on this PC port years ago. When they
Yeah,
started the
absolutely.
PS5 version of this game, they should have been at the same time. They should have said, we're also going to bring it to PC. Let's get the
Yeah.
PC version ready, and we'll release that when the HBO series is ready. Because I think the PS5 version of this game was meant to be ready to coincide with the HBO series, and I think the HBO series was late. And so they were just like, "Okay, we'll do the PC version instead."
Hmm.
Because that HBO series got delayed again and again and again because of the pandemic. They had to record, like, way later than they expected.
Interesting. I wonder. I wonder. Yeah, there might be something to that.
Either that or the multiplayer thing that they're working on just took way longer than they expected, and they wanted that to be out with this, and plans have just, like, not happened.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. Was it not enough to have a really hit TV show? You had to sell a
No,
crummy
you
version
need
of
the
your game
brand
too.
synergy, Steve. You need the synergy.
Nintendo seemingly don't care about that, and, they're doing
Yeah.
absolute gangbusters at
That's
the
different though,
box
you know?
office.
That's different, right? Because it's like Mario is like already the most established IP in the world. We talked about how, and this has been an ongoing conversation, right? The Last of Us is, I would say, if you asked somebody, right, to be like, what are the marquee PlayStation franchises? Last of Us would be in that conversation, right? Or inarguably a top five, I would think. However, like it doesn't we talked about how The Last of Us Part 2 did not sell the way that God of War sells, did not sell the way that a Mario game sells, right? I think it was very critically beloved, right? And with some discrepancy there, I suppose. But Sony's franchises in general don't have the level of market penetration that something like Mario does. And I think that's the point in a lot of ways of something like The Last of Us on HBO is that yeah, it exposes the story to people that would never play video games, right? Like there's tons of people that watch that show that will never touch a controller just because they don't game like that. And that's cool. That's a new way to get people involved in that franchise and whatever. But I also think it was to drive sales of the video game, right? Like Last of Us Part 1 sales, I'm sure spiked during the 8 weeks that the show was on TV, right? And that's that's part of their
Yeah,
overall.
it made me wanna play it, and I got suckered into buying this game, and I should have waited, but I didn't. But it
Or
means
should
I
have bought
could
it on
talk
your
about it.
PS5.
It means I could have spoken about it on the show, and that's always
Yeah.
a factor in my mind for when I'm buying things as well. It's just like, "Oh, I can talk about it on the show, and I can share my experiences." I've ended up playing Death Stranding instead. I've got thoughts on that game, and I need to talk to you about them at some point somewhere. Because fuck me,
I'm
that's
ready.
a
I want to hear about
bizarre
it.
game. So bizarre.
I tell you what, man, you in the last like 2 years, you have had a completely unpredictable trajectory for me. Like you come onto the show sometime and you're like, I've been playing Days Gone. Who the fuck are you?
Days Gone was a really good PC port as well. That worked so well on Steam Deck.
Now
Highly
you're out here
recommend
like,
Days
I'm
Gone.
playing Death Stranding.
Death
It's so
Stranding also works great. I'm playing the non-director's cut version because it was free on the Epic Games Store, but it's also part of the Humble Choice bundle this month. So if you are interested in playing Days Gone on your Steam Deck, go pick up the Humble Choice bundle. It's like 10.99. Roller Drome's also in there, which was one of my favorite games last year, and there's a bunch of other good stuff. It's a really good bundle this month.
I'm about to check this out.
Yeah, Humble Choice is really good. Death Stranding though, fucking mental game. Genuinely, Kojima just needs to make movies because I just don't understand.
No, he
I
can't.
genuinely don't.
That's wrong. He should only make games because he's he's a fucking just wait, you're saying Death Stranding is on the thing this month?
Yes,
Okay,
not Days Gone. Sorry.
I think you said both, and I just want to
No, Death
clarify for the
Stranding's
people.
there, and Roller Drome, and some other games that I thought
Life
looked
is
cool.
Strange 2. Come
Yeah,
on, baby.
it's a
Steve,
pretty.
you got to
It's
buy this.
oh, I've already got it. I'm subscribed to Humble Choice.
All right, buddy, come on. So you got to now you're going to play Life is Strange finally, right?
Well, I've not played the first one,
No,
and
I
only the
know, and
second
you
one's
told
in
me you
there.
were gonna, and then you didn't, and I'm upset. You're out here
Yeah,
playing Death Stranding.
how's Hitman go?
All right, okay, all right, okay, fair enough. We're gonna move on. Speaking of things that, I guess this isn't really the same thing. This is a terrible transition because we're speaking of things that weren't playable on Steam Deck. Now let's talk about something that is
Yeah,
playable
well,
on
my
Steam Deck.
transition was gonna be, Sony can't get a game to work on Steam Deck, but Microsoft can because Halo MCC is now playable on deck.
Nailed it, nailed it. Wonderful. So support for anti-cheat has been added by its developers, which means, of course, now that Halo Master Chief Collection can finally come to Steam Deck, including multiplayer, which is very cool. I wonder if this is going to shoot up to the top 20 games played this month.
Oh, yeah, I think it
You
probably
gotta
will, because I think
imagine,
a
right?
lot of people own this game anyway and just download it. The update size is pathetic, it's 6 megabytes. I think all they did was move, like, one file from one place to another, so it's like they did hardly anything to get this to work.
Big patch, everybody. Big patch coming to Master Chief Collection.
But I'm so glad they finally done it. It proves now that easy anti-cheat games should all be able to work on the deck, no problem. I hope this paves the way for Bungie to add
Bring
in the Battle Eye
Destiny
support and bring
finally?
Destiny to the Steam Deck finally, because there's
God.
no reason it shouldn't be able to play. I can imagine Halo MCC. What was that mode that me, you, and Doc played where like one of you's like infected and you
I think it's actually just called Infected. Yeah,
oh
but
my
yeah,
god, I loved
one of
that
you's the
mode. That was
zombie,
so
and
fun.
I love that game mode. It's like some of my fondest memories of Forge back in the day in Halo 3 and Reach and stuff was like just oh yeah, me it was like me and like you made like 10 other friends like in a custom game, and it just would get so chaotic because it's like you're the last person and there's like 9 infected trying to chase you down and stuff. And it's always like the one friend who's actually good at the game is the last person and you're all ganging up on them. Yeah, it's such a fun, like chaotic game mode. Man, I'll tell you what, I would love to get back into Halo Infinite now that Forge is out and there's like a new season of multi. Like I'm kind of feeling the Halo pull again. I feel like so maybe I'll
Well,
jump into this.
Infinite's also playable. But I don't think that's the one to play on, right? Master Chief Collection seems to be the one where everyone is still playing.
Well,
Um,
depends because I certainly Infinite took a big old hit, but it feels like it's kind of rebounding a little bit right now that they it seems like they're getting their season pass thing figured out.
oh,
But I'll
fair
tell you
enough.
what, I'm always
That was
happy to go back to the Master
you
Chief
know what's
Collection. I
really
would do this in a
fucking
heartbeat.
what's really cool is you can buy each of them separately if you want to on Steam. So
Really,
if you only want Halo 3, it's 6.99.
that's
So
cool.
like you just pick the ones you want because I don't give a shit about the original Halo.
Yeah, I guess there's not really a lot that you're not really doing a lot of multiplayer stuff there.
No. You could probably just pick up Halo 3 and ODST, and that'll probably do the two you actually want.
Ooh, God, I love firefight no DST. I really do. It's so fun. That is another one that like I had it's like one of my best friends growing up. And like there was a period, it was like, I don't know, whatever. Maybe we're sophomores in high school or whatever when that game comes out. And I remember there was a couple months where every Friday night after school, we go back to my place and just play firefight for like hours and just be like, let's what's the farthest wave we can get to? How can we time out which health we use and just like trying to get it down to a science being like, okay, the health's gonna reset next one, go use it, like just really like, let's pull all the guns off the wall and throw them on the ground and like stuff like that. So much
Can
fun.
you imagine that? Everyone just brings a Steam Deck round instead of like an
An
Xbox
Xbox
and a
controller.
CRT these days. It's just like that's the new LAN party is we all just rock up with Steam Decks and play Halo Master Chief Collection.
Yo, that sounds great actually. Like let's do that. Let's have a Steam Deck podcast meetup and we'll just play Master Chief Collection.
Hey, I bet if you arranged that in America, you'd probably have a bunch of people coming because that's where the majority of our audience for this podcast is.
Zayd would drive. He would drive wherever it
Yeah,
was.
100%.
He'd figure it out. Have at least one person show up.
Yeah, it'll be a fun time. I think I may end up picking up Halo at some point because I do like the Halo games.
Steve, yeah, you back? We trying to
You
play? I mean, like, even if you just want to play through like the campaign, we could do co-op. Like, that's fun. Do a
Oh, you
little.
can do that. You don't own this game on Steam though, so that's a
I'll buy
problem.
it. I'll buy it.
We could
Whatever.
also just play it on Xbox. That's also the thing,
We
right?
could do
Like,
that. We could do that. I mean, either way, if you want to play through Halo together, I would love to do that. I think you can play it online together
oh
through
man,
the campaign.
I'm looking
I'm
at
not
the
sure.
friends. The friends on Steam that have it. Doc's number one on the stats. 160 hours. Doc's invested in this game.
Mad lad. We've said Halo a few times. He might just get like I'm waiting for him to jump through my wall like
Yeah,
the
he's gonna
Kool-Aid
show up.
man. It's like
Yeah.
Beetlejuice. You just say it enough and he just comes.
Yeah,
But
it's
anyway,
nice to see though.
this
Really
is
nice
great.
to see.
Yeah, this is one that felt like it was missing for a while, and it's cool to see more like big multiplayer experiences like this coming to the deck.
Yeah, really cool. Like we're seeing some go away, like multiverses, not through any fault of Steam Deck's fault, but it's nice to see more of these multiplayer stuff coming over because I do think it's a nice way to play. But I've not experienced anything multiplayer, but I know you said you had a really good experience playing multiverses with your friend and just being able to
God,
team
I
up and
loved playing multiverses on Steam Deck. It was so perfect. And the built-in microphone and like I voice chat on it is so good. It's like so it works so easily. It's incredible.
you're gonna miss multiverses.
I am. But I've been talking about it with my buddy who is the one I played with all the time, and as much as it's definitely like a shit show over there right now, I'm low key happy that it's happening because it felt like the game was floundering and was going to die, and the idea that they can maybe, hopefully, right, go away, right the ship, come out with like a big update that gets people juiced again, and maybe it can come back and find its footing. I would love that because I really did love that game when I was at its peak, but you know, I fell off like a lot of people did. So I given us a reason to come back with like a fresh 2.0, hopefully, um, will be enough to kind of get people back on board. But we shall see. Because I remember you when in the early days, it was number one. It was on the top 20 of the
It
Steam
was,
Deck list
yeah,
all the time for like months,
yeah.
weeks.
I
And
genuinely don't know what happened. It's a really fun, it would be a really fun story to see investigated. Went from an all-time peak
yeah,
of
I mean,
153,000 to like
maybe I'll make
500
maybe I'll
to
make a video
500
about it
people.
because
That's it.
I know what happened. Like I can tell you as a dedicated member of that community, I can tell you what happened.
Yeah, but I really want to like, if you can do like some investigative journalism, I'd love to hear behind the scenes, like why the fuck was there never like any proper seasons or like characters added? Like, what the hell happened? Like, why was it such a mess?
We had
That'd be a
such a
really
s- it
fun
was
thing to
such a
investigate.
steady. Yeah, that's the missing piece of the puzzle. We'll see what I can do. I'm gonna uh, I'll shake some trees, Steve. I'll see what I can find. But anyway, yeah, this is a cool one, and I hope that you do actually want to take the plunge because let me know. I would love to get back in and play some Halo with you. I've been thinking about it a lot lately. So, and if you in the community, maybe we set up a Halo night again. It's been a while. We
That'd
used
be
to do
cool.
Halo nights
Yeah.
pretty regularly. They were a lot of fun. So let us know. We can always get one of those rolling again. So, Steve, great show. Great work today. You killed it.
Yeah, you too, Pete. Good
Thanks,
job.
buddy.
It's good to have you back.
Thank you. It's good to be back. It's good to be back. I'm happy to be here, and hopefully, I feel like my spottiness on the shows is coming to an end, which I'm very happy about because I've been missing spending the time with you and the folks at home. But it was good to be back. Good episode. Thank you guys for tuning in for another episode of the Steam Deck podcast. We really truly appreciate your support. We could not do it without you, and yeah, thank you guys for tuning in for another one. And remember, if you want to write in to be a part of next week's show, you can hit us up at questions@flipscreen.games. You can come join our Discord where the conversation keeps on rolling between episodes. However you choose to get involved, you can find a link to it over on flipscreen.games. That's our website. And of course, the best way to find all the places we are all over the web. So for the crew, I've been Pete. He's been Steve. We'll see you next week.